What's up fam, my name is Tech, and welcome to my Mass Effect 3 multiplayer guide for the Quarian Soldier. I'll be starting by going over the racial passives and then the active abilities. Following that, I'll give you some builds you can try to start off with the class. And as always, links to useful information will be in the description. So what can he do? This class is primarily focused on weapon DPS, but also has some offensive utility as well. Unlike the non-DLC Quarians, this class does not get the extra bump to shields, so they get the average of 500 for both health and shields. However, they do get a bit of love on the offense, as their passive gives an extra 5% weapon damage at rank 1, and up to 7.5% more if max for weapon damage. They also get the option to reduce the weight of all weapons at rank 6 instead of just SMGs. Because of this, the soldier tends to be a more potent and flexible weapon damage dealer than any of the other Quarians. Everything else about melee, movement, and stats of the class is pretty identical to the base Quarians. As a Quarian Marksman, you have access to Marksman, Tactical Scan, and Sabotage, three quite unique abilities, as all three of which are only available on 3 or fewer classes. This is the second one with access to Marksman following the Quarian Soldier. I covered it in a bit more detail in that video, but I'll give the TLDR here. On activation, you'll instantly reload your magazine if using a weapon that uses bullets, while increasing your fire rate and accuracy. This ability is best used with weapons that have large magazines and bullet spread, as it will increase your DPS and make it easier to hit headshots, which is important for this class. Definitely try a bunch of weapons with this, but the first one I'd recommend is the N7 Typhoon if you have it. Tactical Scan is the signature ability of all male Quarians. All 3 of them have it, and they are the only ones. On activation, you'll mark a target, increasing all damage it receives and reducing its movement speed for 20 seconds. The target will be highlighted, allowing you and your allies to see them through all terrain and smoke, and you'll be able to see the health and shields of the target. It can be spec'd to increase weapon or power damage taken. Both options are powerful, but it's difficult for this class to take advantage of the power damage, so if you're not confident in your team synergy, weapon damage is usually safer. At rank 5, it has the option of increasing the target's headshot damage taken or increasing movement speed reduction by 15%. I always had defaulted to headshot damage, but while reading on the class, the wiki mentioned that the headshot damage perk is bugged and doesn't do anything. Since then, I've avoided using it and stuck to the other perk. Rank 6 is an option for either more damage or double the duration and revealing all enemies in a radius around your target. Both are pretty useful, so try both of them. This ability has a solid cast time, but it doesn't take you out of cover, so often it's pretty safe to use. It also has a pretty low cooldown, so even at high weight, it's still pretty solid. Sabotage can be a very strong ability against Geth and is situational against the other 3 factions. Its activation is similar to Overload and hits in a small AoE. Its effects are split in 2, Hack and Backfire. Hack affects all synthetic enemies, including Cerberus, Atlases, and turrets. Hacked targets will turn and attack the nearest enemy, which can cause a lot of damage and distraction. Backfire will trigger on any organic enemies. About a second after activation, the target's weapons will overheat, which will cause tech damage to them. This does bonus damage to shields and can prime for tech bursts, however this doesn't work on synthetic enemies. It can also trigger both electrocution effects that stun organics. At rank 6, you can choose to increase the tech damage affected targets received by 50%, which is pretty huge. This happens immediately on cast and is available to both Backfire and Hack effects. It also increases the damage of all non-biotic power combos and some heavy melee attacks. This ability as a whole is very strong against Geth and Cerberus, and the tech vulnerability can make it strong against the other 2 factions as well, but because of the fact that you can't take advantage of it yourself, it's somewhat niche, and I wouldn't say it's a must-take on this class. For builds, I have one standard one I've been using, and one I think would be interesting to try after having read more on Sabotage. First is a weapon build. Start by maxing Marksman, taking firing rate, headshots, and accuracy and firing rate. Then max Tactical Scan, taking weapon damage, move speed, and damage. Then max weapon damage and durability in the passives. For the weapons, try the Typhoon and your choice of handgun to pair with the Combative's upgrade gear bonus. Or you could try the M90 Indra with the Hurricane in the operative package. With this build, the main goal would be to burn down any and everything with your weapons while tac scanning anything bigger than a cannibal. The second build would be much more supportive and likely to be paired with some other tech damage dealers. The first part is an optional 3 points in Marksman, primarily to bypass the cooldown animation of the particle rifle if you overheat. Then max Tactical Scan with power damage and area scan, and max Sabotage with backfire, recharge speed, and tech vulnerability. Then put the rest in your passives to your preference. Lastly, take Geth Scanner. With that and Tactical Scan, you'll know where enemies are all of the time, which is useful. With this build, you'll be primarily focused on disruption by hacking synthetics and electrocuting organics, while increasing key targets damage taken and providing intel on enemy positions to your teammates. And the particle rifle will allow you to still do significant weapon damage to most infantry level enemies. On first pass, I had thought this class didn't have a ton of flexibility, given that Sabotage seemed like such a niche ability that it couldn't be relied on against most factions. But when you read deeper and invest more points into it, it becomes one of the most potent damage amps in the game and works on any enemy. Add to that the shield damage and CC it can do to most organics is far more versatile than I originally assumed. This class can use any ammo type, it's really up to preference. When I use the Typhoon, I've liked using explosive rounds. They complement the high fire rate by adding potential stagger and AoE to your shots, and this class is pretty lacking in AoE. I mentioned a few times the factions this class prefers to fight. In order, I'd say Geth, then Cerberus, then Collectors, then Last Reapers. The class best to pair up with this is a frontline tech damage dealer. With that being said, a long time ago last year I said Vorcha Soldier was coming soon, so I guess it's time for that. It's been a while since my last upload, but I'm planning on finishing out the videos for all the classes this year. If you're someone who's watched me in the past or a new viewer, I just wanted to say thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.